Hey guys, welcome back to STA Woodworks. So today I have a pretty quick and simple project that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to build a garden trellis. So these are what you see out in your flower gardens, maybe vegetable gardens at some point, possibly, but mostly flower gardens where you have viney plants, clematis and things like that. Climbing roses is another one. But anyways, you'll set this up in your garden and then you train your vines to go up it, and what it does, the vines just climb up it and they look real good. So you can make these honestly as fancy and as expensive as you want. What I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to make it out of a 2x4, and obviously you can paint them whatever color you want. If you're not going to paint it, the best thing to do is use a treated 2x4. I'm going to use a regular 2x4 because that's what I have. I don't have any treated ones. And it would be better if this was painted. I don't know if I'll paint it or not. Yeah, I mean, it'll still last a while. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing today. So y'all hang with me. I'm gonna set you up over here and we'll get started. All right, guys, so what I've done is I took a 2x4 and I cut it down to 72 inches in length. And then I ripped them down into just over half-inch strips, just a hair over half-inch strips. I don't know if you could see it on the video, but I had one, which you'll run into this if you're 2x4s, and we all know it's hard to get good 2x4s. It's hard to get good any type of wood anymore. But if it's got a knot in there, a lot of times they'll break at the knots, which if that hadn't broke there as I was sawing it, it would have broke whenever I was stretching out my trellis. So that's why I like to do a little bit around half an inch, a little over half an inch. You can make them. You can actually go up to 5/8 of an inch if you can find a really good 2x4. But if you have any issues like that, then you got to do another 2x4. So that's why I try to do mine at a little over half an inch, because it gives me that extra one that you could have in there. So I've got those ripped down just to 72 inches, ripped down just over half an inch. Now, for the cross brace, I've got one cut at 24 inches. I'm gonna rip a couple of these. For my cross braces, I go a little bit thicker for the cross brace. I'm gonna go 5/8 of an inch. So, gonna get those ripped down and then we'll get it laid out. So, all right, guys. So right here you can see me ripping down the cross braces, and I'm ripping them to 5/8 of an inch. So these will be the supports that go the width of the trellis. All right, so right here I have clamped my pieces with a hand clamp that holds them together, and I am getting my bolt prepared for the bottom of this trellis. So if you clamp them together, it holds them together, and then you can drill them all at the same time. Now, the size of the bolt that I used was a 3/8 of an inch. I wouldn't recommend going any bigger than that for this size of trellis, and I only used one.
If this trellis was going to be a little bit bigger, longer, then you would probably want to do 2 bolts. But I done mine about 2 inches from the very bottom is where I drilled my hole. And then I just used a regular 3/8 inch bolt. The width of your trellis or the number of pieces that you have on there will determine the length of the bolt that you need. So I had several bolts left over. I just found one that would work. But if you need to buy a bolt, then you would just measure the width of all your pieces together, like what I had clamped down at the bottom, and then buy one a little bit about 1/2 inch longer than that. Now that I have my bolt in there, I am basically making a makeshift jig on my work table. If I was going to do these several times, I would make its own jig. But first thing I did is I put the screw down, and then I went ahead and done that piece to the far right, and then I measured over 29 inches and screwed my other end piece on. Now here I'm measuring to determine what size would be look the best. And I don't know how well this video is going to pick it up, but I had one of these pieces to break, but I already had the bolt in there, so I didn't want to have to take it all out and start all over. So what I end up doing, and this is me trying to figure out what I'm going to do, but what I end up doing is I just leave it. As you can see on that one there, it's a double. It's got 2 pieces together. So I make the decision just to leave that. And now I am cutting my cross members to length of what I want them. Now down there at the bottom, the very first brace, I put that approximately 16 inches up from the very bottom. I'm drilling the holes there. I try to use screws for that very bottom piece. Um, so I'm drilling my holes. If I didn't drill those holes, those screws would come out. They would cause your boards to bust and everything. So I'm putting the screws there, and then the other members, cross members, I will use brad nails. So I'm going here to get the brad nailer and the air compressor and to finish out. Now, it would have been better if I used glue on these. It was cold this morning that I built this, and my glue wasn't cooperating. Y'all all know how that is if it's really cold and you don't take your glue inside. It don't want to work very good. But you should glue these before you brad nail them. And of course, anytime you go to use a brad nailer, you always run out of brads. So I had to go refill the brad nailer. But this is me getting it to where I want the final product to be. And then here I am admiring the work and then cleaning up.
All right, guys, let me show you what I got here. So as I got into it, this 2x4, it had more knots in it after I got to ripping it down. And then I had another one bust as I was spreading it out. So what I ended up doing with this one is I didn't make it as wide, and it still looks good. It served its purpose, but I didn't make it as wide. And one of the reasons for that it was busting is because I was ripping it down to about 1/2 inch, which you can do 1/2 inch, you can do 5/8. But anyway, so since I wasn't able to spread it as wide, I already had the bolt in there before I realized it. I just decided to leave the bolt in there, and I've got one here that's basically a double. The reason that's like that is because I couldn't spread it as wide after that one busted on me. So what I ended up doing, I just left it. I just went with it and got my cross members there, and gonna put this in the garden and let the flowers climb up it. I wouldn't sell this. If I was gonna sell this, well then it'd been, I'd made a jig and all that. This is for my own personal use. But if you want to sell these, then you most certainly can. Just look for really good wood, really good wood, and that's going to make it a lot easier to make these. I'd suggest making you a jig. But let me show you what we got here. Okay, as you can see, I ended up doing, basically it's got the 4 pieces. I normally do them with 5, but like I say, I had that one bust, so I just went with what I had. It's got the 3 rungs on it, and it's got the 1 bolt there at the bottom. So, hey guys, so I want to give you all a look at the garden trellis that we made. We've got it set up here in the flower garden. It looks really good. So let me show you what we got. All right, so as you can see, this clematis, it's a climbing plant, so it'll keep on climbing up, and then when it gets all full, it's gonna look really, really good. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you did, be sure and hit that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.